A 79-year-old business owner says he was body slammed and pinned to the ground by federal agents during an immigration raid despite being a U.S. citizen. We're hearing more from him tonight as he files a $50 million lawsuit against the Department of Homeland Security. Fox 11's Laura Diaz now with the details. Laura?
Surveillance video shows agents first approaching the elderly man inside of his business 2 weeks ago. He says he attempted to ask them what they needed and pleaded with them to allow his workers to retrieve their papers proving they had a right to work in the U.S. Instead, he was thrown to the ground. Undeterred, he followed the agents outside, where he says the encounter escalated, even though he was respectful. Rafi was now terrified, outnumbered, and outmuscled. At a news conference Thursday called by Shoehead's attorney announcing a $50 million civil rights claim, Rafi said that he suffered multiple broken ribs, damage to his brain from being slammed headfirst into the ground. He showed his bruises to reporters. Despite his protests that he's an American citizen, he says he was arrested, detained at a federal center for hours upon hours without medical attention.
If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit.
And comedian Bill Burr taking to his podcast to defend his performance at a Saudi Arabian comedy festival in the Middle East last week.
Just like us. So like you can talk about anything, other than a couple things, which was basically, religion, don't make fun of the royals. Everyone was happy. The people that were doing the festival were thrilled. It was a mind-blowing experience. Definitely top 3 experiences I've ever had. And it was great to experience that part of the world and to be a part of the first comedy festival over there in Saudi Arabia. I think it's going to lead to a lot of positive things.
In 1947, the biggest Hollywood stars of the day formed the Committee for the First Amendment to fight a sweeping political crackdown on movie making during the McCarthy era. One of the founders was legendary actor Henry Fonda. Nearly 80 years later, Jane Fonda says those forces are back and she's picking up her father's torch. The actress and activist just announced a new committee with the same name to defend Hollywood free speech amid growing fears of government censorship and intimidation. More than 500 movie stars, producers, directors, and entertainers have signed on to join her. And here with me now is Jane Fonda. Thank you so much for being here. I do want to talk about something that you start with, what you wrote in this letter, because it's really striking. You wrote, "I'm 87 years old. I've seen war, repression, protest, and backlash. I've been celebrated and I've been branded an enemy of the state. But I can tell you this is the most frightening moment of my life." That's pretty chilling.
This is a very chilling time. We've faced attempts at autocracy before in the 20s and 30s, and you've cited the example of McCarthyism. There was Jim Crow. This is different. And we should all be very scared, and the key is solidarity. And so that's why I thought to resurrect the spirit of the committee that was started in the 50s and included my father within the entertainment industry.
Yeah, baby. It's episode 54 of The Whiners on October 2nd, 2025. Ryan Milton is out tonight, but Morgan Blythe is with us as usual. And I'm the co-host, Jeff Norman. Top of the evening, everybody. And our special guest tonight, let's say hello to him, Steve Scrovan, a longtime friend of mine. He's I didn't even know how to introduce you, Steve, because you do so many things. I'm calling you a writer/radio host. You're the co-host of the Ralph Nader Radio Hour. You've been a comedy writer on sitcoms, most notably Everybody Loves Raymond, Seinfeld as well, including the episode that I was in. I made your career, of course.
Yeah.
We must always
acknowledge
acknowledge
that, Jeff. Yes.
And Steve is on the board of the Very Woke Public Citizen. So Steve is a bit of an activist of sorts. Would that be fair to say? I mean, you care about what's going on.
Or a supporter of the real people who do the work. Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And Steve and I have kind of a love-hate relationship in the sense that I love him and he hates me. But that's okay. That's okay.
I don't hate you, Jeff.
No. You don't? Okay. We spar on social media.
We do.
Most recently, I think Steve's... What's that, Morgan?
It's the best kind of relationship, the one that challenged you, like in your ideas.
Yes.
So.
Oh, yeah. And then the makeup
sex
sex is great afterwards, right?
Yeah. Well, this is the makeup sex. Me doing this podcast.
I think the most recent online skirmish we had was when Steve scolded me because I referred to what's her name as a hood rat. What's her name? The one from Texas.
And Ratface Raskin.
Oh, he didn't like that either.
In Crazy Eyes.
I love it when the little people remember all my lines.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this is the Whiners, and we tend to drink wine or some sort of adult beverage. What are you drinking tonight, Morgan?
So tonight, I like beer. I don't know if you guys have caught on to that. At Modelo.
Oh, you're in Washington. You should hang out with Brett Kavanaugh. Apparently, he likes beer too.
Oh. Well, yeah. I think
he made a point of that. He made a point of that. I like beer. Okay.
As long as the government is shut down, the Supreme Court is still open. They're one of the few institutions that are still open, right? I don't think the court shut down, did they?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Morgan's enjoying that fabulous hotel internet connection. Look at her. She's frozen.
Oh, boy. That's not a good freeze. Sometimes, it's better sometimes with the eyes closed.
Yeah.
That's not a good
right
freeze on the mouth there. Come back, Morgan.
Hey, Morgan, if you can hear us, just log out, log back in.
Trying to revive you, Morgan. We need internet CPR.
Steve, do you know the number to 911 by any chance?
Do I know the number of the 911? I know there's a 9 and a 1 and a 1 in it somewhere. I don't know the combination.
And you don't know what order to go in either.
I don't know what order. Yes.
We'll see if she comes back.
You know what? We'll call 411 to find out what 911.
Remember 411? Phone books and phone booths and all kinds of stuff. Here comes Morgan again. There she is.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what just happened. It just all went dark.
No, and
my internet connection.
I have to tell you, we did make fun of the look on your face because it was not good, Morgan. Your mouth was like this.
Was it like?
It was a little funhouse mirror, yeah.
Morgan, one other thing. Can you lower the volume on the speaker of your computer a little bit? Because we're getting, Steve and I are hearing our voices back, which is very disconcerting. Okay. So I am drinking, this is an encore presentation, so to speak, for me, the second time I've had this. This is probably my favorite wine of the year. I loved it so much that I went to buy a quantity. I was going to go buy maybe a case of it.
Well, at $11, you could buy a lot of that wine.
Oh God, you got to meet Ryan. Ryan is like known to spend $200 on a bottle of wine. And he's always mocking me. You think it can't be any good for $11? Is that what you're saying?
No, it could be very good. and you yourself are fruity with a peppery finish. So I think it's perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like that.
Anyway, I went to buy a case of it, and then I was very disappointed to find out that they don't make it anymore. And so I have 1 or 2 bottles left, and I've been saving it for a special occasion. And when Steve Scrovan and I have a tearful reunion, that's what I consider to be
very
a
nice.
special occasion. And how are you honoring the special occasion? What special beverage have you poured tonight, Steve?
Agua. A little water here, and I was
Spanish water.
Yes, it's Spanish water, and which is the best kind. And no, I was practicing I had a baseball practice this morning, and I'm at the age where if I run around for a couple hours, the rest of the day I'm just trying to hydrate. It's just impossible to quench my thirst, and wine would not do that. So I've got
it would make you more thirsty.
I've got to build a foundation. I'm going out to dinner today. Maybe I'll have a glass of wine at dinner. But right now, I've got to build the foundation, or else,
okay,
brain cells just die.
Well, good to see that you're showing absolutely no signs of aging. I really am impressed.
Yeah, except for the skin and the hair and
basically everything.
Yeah.
No, but you're still prolific. You're still creative. You're a great writer, great storyteller. I love your Substack. In fact, I couldn't trust myself to describe it, so I want to put it there at the bottom exactly how you describe it, because it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And in one way or another, it's always interesting. It's always funny. You don't push the humor. See, a lot of comedians, I don't know if you feel the same way I feel about comedians, but a lot of comedians I feel are a little bit annoying in the sense that they get very nervous if they don't get X amount of laughs per minute, and they're just forcing things. You are more of a proponent of the found humor school, I would say. I hope you take this as a compliment, because I mean it that way.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I started as a stand-up, so I know what that's trying to get a laugh every 15 seconds is about. And this is a different format because it's Substack. I do an audio version too, but it's prose and it's storytelling. And storytelling is a different rhythm, and it's not a staccato joke, every 15 seconds a joke, because you're building to a story, and you don't want to always compromise a story by going for a joke that might be distracting. You're building to a larger conclusion. And so that's the exercise of doing my Substacks, which are funny essays or funny stories from my life. Either, I've got a bunch of stories about writing episodes of television. The last one that you're referring to was a stand-up story about me following the late Angel Salazar back in the late 80s at a showcase where he basically did a Chippendale strip show. And then I had to follow.
Well, actually, I have a little sample of it. Why don't I show that first, and then you can fill in blanks, so to speak. Did you check this out, Morgan? Steve's Substack? Did you have time? All right. I know you're busy and traveling. You see? Are you a fan? First of all, Morgan, are you a fan of comedy at all, or not so much in general?
I love comedy. That's kind of how I stay sane and engaging in politics.
People always say, it's good to laugh, especially in this stage and age. I've heard that for 50 years. Like, was there a time when people said, you know what? Don't need to laugh. We're done. Everything's good.
No, never that. But some people are really into comedy, and they listen to it. They watch the comedy specials all the time. They can rattle off their 5-10 favorite comedians off the top of their heads. True. Others are just, they don't even know who their favorite is, but they'd go, yeah, I like to laugh.
Yeah.
So which category are you in, Morgan?
Oh, I have a top 5.
Oh, yeah?
So
Who are your top 5?
Dave Chappelle always tops it. So that's, I kind of grew up on him and
Saudi Arabia whore, right? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He actually was a part of that.
I remember
when he started. To see.
We'll get to that later, though.
Yeah.
All right. So you know what I was talking about. Maybe you don't appreciate what I was saying, though, because maybe you like comedians giving you 10 laughs per minute or whatever. But anyway, I just have I've hung out with a lot of comedians over the years too, and it's also annoying off stage. Like you're just trying to be a human having a conversation. Everything is a premise for a joke. Oh, the salt sugar. Hey, how about that salt? You know, you're like,
No,
calm down.
that's
Let's just talk.
That's a little needy. Yeah, no, I'm not in. I don't fall into that category. I don't actually follow the profile of a comedian in general, which is, oh, he was the kid who always, got beat up or bullied or was always picked last on the team. That wasn't me. I was a jock. I was popular. But then again, I'm not that funny. So maybe that's the problem.
You can't have it all, Steve. But also,
just saying that, I think I figured out the problem.
But you forgot one thing, though. You really did have it all. You are also very smart. Steve attended Yale University in my hometown of New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh,
not just anybody can get into Yale. I mean, I got into Yale only when I bought a ticket to see the football game or the basketball game.
Well, you know what? That was how I got into Yale, because I got recruited for football.
Ah, very good. Wow. So you're a jock, you're smart, you got it all. I am so jealous.
Yeah, I'm pretty great. Yeah.
Let's take a look at Steve's latest Substack post. This is about a minute sample with the audio version and a screenshot of it.
Get out. Okay. A lesson in reading a room. When I dropped off my briefcase in the upstairs green room at Caroline's at the Seaport, I noticed a young woman applying body makeup to a lithe, handsome, dark-haired man in a Speedo. I didn't make much of it. The man introduced himself as Angel. He wasn't someone I knew from the New York stand-up scene. He had come in for the audition about to take place downstairs. This was 1988, the height of the 80s stand-up comedy boom. Club owners from around the country had organized the conference, which would culminate in a showcase featuring about 15 comics doing 5-minute sets each. I was lucky. I had been given the number 5 slot in the lineup, a prime spot. Early enough for the audience to be warmed up, but not so late they'd be burned out.
All right, now let me give you a little showbiz advice, Steve.
Yeah.
You don't want to give away too much, so I think I picked just the right amount to give them.
Set them up, and the intriguing underwear shot with the microphone.
Yeah, I think the audience, let's address the elephant in the room, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm sure Morgan and the audience are all wondering, is that package that's so provocatively presented in the tighty whities you, or did you use some generic photo to just throw up?
It is not me, and the guy who does my graphics found that or generated that in some way, but that is a clue to what the story is about. We put together the microphone, the fact that I was doing a showcase at a club at Caroline's at the Seaport back in 1988, and meeting this guy that I hadn't met before named Angel Salazar. So the rest, you've got to go to stevesgrovan.substack.com and check it out.
Check it out.
Check it out.
All right.
That's the name.
Morgan, are you disappointed that that's not Steve's own very, very impressive, I assume?
Yeah, very disappointed. Yeah, no, Jeff cracked me up because he sent me the Substack to, prepare for the show.
Yeah, a little off-putting.
Like, okay, what am I getting myself into?
Jeff, enough with the sexual harassment. Stop sending me pornography.
Yeah, no, I can see that. I can see that. And then you go, how old is this guy? But then I was 31 years old. Yeah. But I do all sorts of stuff that, like the one that's coming up, it'll be coming out next Tuesday, publishing next Tuesday, is political. And I'll tease it by telling you it's about Kash Patel. And Kash Patel, as you may,
a lot of material there.
Well, he wrote a trilogy of children's books called The Plot Against the King being Donald Trump. And the first one was about Russiagate. The second one was about the election that was supposedly stolen. And then the third one is about the king reclaims the throne. And I have published my own fourth one, and that's what will be coming out the fourth installment of The Plot Against the King, Cash in Hand.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Can't believe I gave him showbiz advice. That is a perfect setup. I withdraw the need to counsel you.
Yeah.
Now you can get me back for the crazy eyes things, because Kash Patel has some weird eyes going on too.
Well, you know what? There's a joke in there, but there's a picture of him with a joke in there, kind of about how that happened, why he has those eyes, and
racist. Seriously, Steve, where do you come off lecturing me because I called that woman a hood rat? She has an act where she starts talking, ghetto talk. I didn't tell her to do that. How is it racist for me to comment on that?
To call her a hood rat? Because it's a racist trope, just like rat-faced Raskin is a racist trope too.
It is?
Yeah.
What race am I insulting? Hold on, let's do a little test. Morgan, can you guess what race I'm insulting by calling Jamie Raskin rat face?
I can actually.
Go ahead. What? I don't even know.
I'm not saying it. I can.
Why not? Let's see if the audience let's see if in the comments. What race audience am I? I don't know.
Rat-faced Raskin.
See, to you woke guys, you think however you feel is all that matters. And
no.
Well, it's not the intent of the speaker doesn't count. I swear I don't even know what you're talking about.
Well, you should.
Well, no, I don't think that it was intentional. I won't say that it was intentional for you to make that comment, but I will say it's very unbecoming when arguments ensue or when you disagree with somebody, you go for ad hominems or something that that kind of punches down at the argument. I think you've even alluded to that, Jeff, where you said that like when people lash out and make these claims, it shows, you don't.
Well,
really
look, not everybody has to have the same policy as Citizen Jeff, but just to clarify, the way I feel about that is I don't like when people do that if it's for the purpose of evading the conversation. But if they're actually listening to what's being said, responding to it, I don't mind when people throw in some insults. All right, and I don't know. Let's discuss both of these. Why won't just tell me? Because nobody else is telling me. Jews, somebody's saying. Is that it? Is that racist?
Yeah.
That's what I kind of.
That's the trope. That's
Jews have been mocked for looking like rats.
Yeah, you familiar with Nazi Germany?
Never heard of it. Is it a vacation destination?
No.
Let me check Expedia.com.
It's over now. Released. It's not.
I always miss the travel discounts.
Yeah. No, you missed it by about 80 years. But
so the Nazis called Jews rats? Is that?
No, yeah.
The caricatures. There was like a whole, it was.
The rat caricature of Jews was the whole thing. It was and they would graphically depict it too. So the fact
my goodness, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Jewish, so do I get an extra?
That is a path. You can utilize. That's a card. You can.
A self-hating Jew.
Yeah.
All right, and why do I keep forgetting the Texas Congresswoman's name? What's her name again?
Jasmine Crockett.
Oh yeah, Crockett. So you don't disagree that she does this hood rat character, right? You just don't like me saying the term hood rat because other people say.
She talks in a very unintelligent way when I know that she's intelligent. She's a college-educated woman, and it does. Right. I find it also irritating that she talks like that because I feel like that emboldens, like the Black community to act like that, and I think it's detrimental to.
That's what
I don't like it because I think it emboldens Jeff Norman to call her that. That's
All right. How about if I call her rat face and I call Jamie Raskin a hood rat?
That's
Would that
fine.
Be okay?
That's fine. Yeah. That's fine, and it really gets to the heart of the matter.
The important thing is I have somebody to look over my shoulder and monitor my coarse language.
Yeah, your salty language, which was by the way, another Substack I did. It's called Salty Language, and it was kind of inspired by our little exchange there.
Are you serious?
Yeah, look it up. It's a few months back. It's called Salty Language, And I use that phrase because you defended yourself by saying it was just salty language.
Oh, and did you name me?
I did not name you, no.
Did you describe me as, say, a supermodel or something, to give people a hint?
I describe you as rat-faced, oddly enough.
Do you know that it's Yom Kippur now? So you better start atoning right now.
Yeah, I called you a rat-faced hood rat with crazy eyes. So I just wanted to cover all the bases. No, but that was a Substack where I was kind of decoding a certain language. So you'd appreciate that because
I inspired it. I only wish that you gave me credit. You are now.
You inspired the first paragraph. But I talk about woke and DEI and all the terms that were sort of banned from the government and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I think you and Morgan might bond. Morgan's not as woke as you are, but she's woker than I am. Would you say that's a fair characterization?
I like to choose
Morgan?
my words very carefully. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, we are woke and you are you're unconscious. You're asleep. Maybe we should call you coma. Maybe that's the epithet for.
Oh, no, that's going
no?
way too far. That's
too far. Did you have a coma? I'm sorry, I didn't know if you had a coma.
How dare you?
Did you come out?
Greta's in the news today. Actually, she's on a flotilla, and she says that she got kidnapped. Should we check that out? This is what we call a segue.
My name is Greta Thunberg. I'm a citizen of Sweden. If you are watching this video, I have been abducted and taken against my will by Israeli forces. Our humanitarian mission was non-violent and abiding by international law. Please tell my government to demand my and the others' immediate release.
Now, this could be an issue where we all are more or less in agreement. I say that with cautious optimism.
Why? I mean,
because I think what's going on in Gaza is not necessarily a progressive issue or a conservative issue. I think there's segments of both groups that are feeling either for or against. I think. Am I wrong?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's genocide. It's an ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, I would say it's a question of morality. I mean, on your spectrum of how big or small your empathy goes. Even if you don't want to use the term genocide, which it clearly is, you should just be morally objecting the blockade of food, the constant displacement of people, the bombing of tents now. I mean, it still baffles me that you have people that want to pick the side of what's happening is justified. I'm in DC right now. I've been organizing with Code Pink, and one of the brilliant organizers, Hazami. If you guys have been online looking at any of the disruptions in DC, she's at the epicenter of it. She did the Blinken encampment, did a demonstration with her group outside the State Department yesterday, but today they did a paddle awareness to talk about the flotilla on the Potomac River. And you would see people engage hostilely towards that group, saying like, F Palestine, I wish Palestine would burn. I heard someone say that, women don't have rights there, so I guess that gives us a free right to send bombs to another country to bomb it. I don't understand how that really kind of coincides, but it's gross how you still have some people that are taking the stance and feel so emboldened to make it known to the public.
But what about what's going on right now? What does she mean by abducted?
So there was. Do you want to talk about it, Steve? Or
no? You probably know more of. You're probably more in tune to the actual news. I mean, I could probably, define it.
So there was a band of over 40 ships. I think it was around 44 that had over 500 international activists on them, and it was called the Samud Global Flotilla. And so you had different groups that were actually intercepted yesterday by Israel. This action has been taking place since the early 2000s of trying to break the siege in Gaza. No boats have actually gotten as close as the Samud flotilla has gotten this past time, and that's because the amount of boats that tried to break the siege and deliver baby formula, different medical aid, and just food to this population that is basically being starved. So you had the Alma boat, which is what Greta was on. She was the first to be intercepted by Israel. And what they did is they had this large, cargo ship, because they had over 500 activists that they had to swallow up and put on this cargo ship. So they did that all last night and into the morning of just popping on the ships with their guns and full military fatigues and abducting these non-combatant civilians that were just trying to bring aid into Gaza.
Abducting means taking them somewhere, though, doesn't it?
Talking to me,
yeah, so a lot of the mainstream media won't tell you that what Israel is doing is against international law. These boats are in international water trying to enter Gaza's water space. So Israel has no right to abduct these people, and they're abducting people in international waters, which is a crime in itself. But they like to claim that they have control due to this war. But the ICJ ruled that Israel cannot engage in the actions that it is engaging in. It cannot retaliate in Gaza because it is the occupying force. So you have the occupied and the occupier, which is Israel. They don't have the right to do what they're doing in Gaza on the legal stance, because you have a people that are being subjected to occupation, and you're further suppressing them by limiting the aid, limiting the electricity, not allowing them to have access to medical resources. There is no more hospitals in Gaza that are fully functioning. Absolutely absurd, but the mainstream media will not stress to you that what Israel has done is a completely illegal action.
All right, well, that's worth saying, and I don't mean to diminish the consequential nature of stopping these supplies from coming in, but I'm still trying to find out where she is. What's she mean by abducted?
What Israel will do is that they will abduct these people, which it is an abduction. They're illegally being taken without their will. And again, in international waters, and they're being taken to basically a prison facility in Israel. Chris Smalls, which I think we're familiar with, he is one of the union organizers up in New York. He successfully organized the union with Amazon. He went on the Handala flotilla a few months ago. And Israel violently abducted him, beat him, and kept him for a few days. So what Israel will do, given that it is Yom Kippur right now, these people are just kind of just sitting in a prison cell. And then they will be subjected with deportation papers, which some of them will not sign. Some of them will sign, and then they'll be deported out of Israel. So that is kind of, they're in limbo right now. They're in a
all right. Well, like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm diminishing it. It's just that usually when you're abducted, you don't make videos that get on social media and so forth.
Those videos were all pre-recorded. So this was all anticipated.
Oh, and so her peers are releasing it in case it happened. Is that what that is?
Yes, I was actually.
Did you know that, Steve? You're nodding like you knew that, or you're nodding? Oh,
no, I didn't know that, but it makes sense.
Yeah, all the images that you're seeing, they asked the organizers to pre-record these videos in the chance that they are intercepted by Israel.
Wow.
Yes. I was with one of the main organizers of the flotilla. She runs the account, and so she was watching diligently as these ships were being intercepted, and she had to upload the videos of each person that was on the ship, basically asking for their governments to take a stance and ask for them to be released. Some countries will. Again, there are I believe over 30 countries, if I'm not mistaken.
You're talking about the nationalities of the people on the boat?
Yes. There are people. It's international. All different countries engaged. I think there was 22 activists from America. Pardon me for not getting the other statistics on the other nations.
That's all right. Are any Code Pink people on the boat?
Yeah. His name is Adnan, and his brother were on the boat, and they have both been abducted, and we haven't heard from them.
Wow. All right. And the U.S. government has, you said about 20 of its citizens, our fellow Americans, are there.
Mm-hmm.
And has anybody, even though the government is shut down, theoretically, No.
When Chris Smalls was abducted and he was beaten in an Israeli prison, Mike Huckabee, which is the ambassador, which it's his job, should be to push American ideas and be a supporter of America and its citizens abroad, refused to speak to Chris Smalls, didn't advocate for him, said absolutely nothing. And among these 22 activists, American activists, you have half a dozen veterans, military veterans, aboard these ships that were objecting the genocide and trying to bring aid to Gaza. And we don't expect our government to stick up for the veterans either, especially when we have someone like Mike Huckabee as the ambassador.
Well, we could send the military, but all the generals and admirals are too fat from what I hear.
Yeah. But they can float in the water. That's the upside.
Right. All right. Well, in the opening, we saw a little bit of Pete Hegseth in the opening. For those of you who missed it, don't I have? Oh yeah, I got it. Here he is.
Fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne Ranger...
All right, enough of that. It is a bad look, but I don't think it's relevant if you're we were talking about this last night on Ask the Inspector. I don't know if you know, Steve, I do another podcast with Scott Ritter, and we were talking about it last night. And he made the very good point that it doesn't matter at all if a admiral or general is fat. Their job is to manage, not to do anything all that physical, right?
No, well, Pete Hegseth is, what was it? He was a major. That's,
some relatively low rank,
Yeah. I mean, he's just bragging that he's in good shape,
Yeah, I think that's what he's done.
Yeah, and then he's going to introduce the commander-in-chief, whose ass weighs 215 pounds. Forget about the rest of his body.
But does he look like this though? That's what
that's me.
Oh, all right.
That's me. When I dropped off my brief.
Hey, can we take a phone call? Would you mind? We have somebody calling in.
Sure.
Let's take it.
All right. Hey there, you're on with Steve, Morgan, and Jeff. Who's this?
Hold on, let me lower my volume here.
Lower the volume on your computer, not on your phone or your voice.
Yes, okay, I got it. I was just listening to your segment on Hegseth, and I'm watching that video again. Yeah.
So what'd you think of the underwear shot?
Oh, I just missed that. I was just turning down my volume. So was that our esteemed Secretary of War?
No, it's the esteemed guest.
Not quite. So what do you want to say about Hegseth?
Well, I'm just going to mirror like what you guys were saying last night on ATI. He's talking to people who have so much more experience than him. So I think I wrote you in a PM that he's like a pigeon, strutting around shitting on himself in front of those guys. And he just looks embarrassingly like incompetent in that video that you just showed.
What do you think, Steve?
Well, I mean, he couldn't even make the first team for Fox and Friends. He was on the weekend, so he was the weekend guy. He couldn't crack past Steve Ducey and Brian Kilmeade, so he's going to tell these generals how they should look, and tell people that they have to shave their beards, and there's no more military people in dresses. I mean, what is his experience? He's just watched MASH and he's talking about Klinger. What is he talking about? And there was actually a very good article.
Well, what do you mean? Hold on. Weren't there like some transvestite dudes who were in the military? Or transsexual?
On MASH.
No, I know about Klinger. Morgan may be too young. Do you know about Klinger on MASH? Sitcom character from the 70s.
Yeah.
But no, there was a real military. Let me see.
Like the comic relief, right?
Yeah. He was doing that to try. His character was like trying to get out of the army by looking crazy, so he would dress as woman. That's Klinger.
Yeah.
But there's a famous guy. I've seen him all the time now. Well, I'm going to try to find a picture. You don't know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're referring to. I want to say the person was in the Biden administration, and it was kind of this big deal.
Rachel Levine.
Yeah.
What I found very interesting. I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Oh, the other thing he was saying about, doing the physical fitness, it's like that's not the Secretary of Defense's job to run around and do push-ups and spend his day, working out. And then expecting all of these, they probably have PhDs like by the busload in all of those generals and experience, the idiocy of trying to make that point. Are we in a Rambo movie or like some, what is it, Captain America, where everybody is like chiseled jaw and, has these puffed out chests with all their medals on them? He's living in a fantasy, obviously, TV world, not the real world where these guys are sitting seriously contemplating, the logistics and structure of the military forces.
Well, you gave Steve a perfect excuse to ignore the picture of Rachel Levine I put up there. So
no, I saw it. There was a dress. Where was the dress?
Where was the dress?
Yeah.
Well, Rachel likes to mix it up.
It is kind of like a woman's suit. I know, I've seen the image. It is kind of like a skirt,
right,
but
it's
nonetheless,
somebody who's trans. So what? What do they care?
So who is this person? This was Clinton's?
Biden's. I don't know what position they held. But I know it was like this big
somebody
thing.
in the Defense Department. Somebody in the Defense Department?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can remember in the Iraq War, they got rid of gay soldiers. And it turns out most of them were translators. I mean, most of them spoke Arabic. And that was one of the things we needed back then.
Yeah, right, of course.
Because they were gay. And so that made the military less. And just because this person is trans doesn't mean they're not. I guarantee you this person is more qualified than Pete Hegseth. I guarantee you. Pete Hegseth is a frat boy lecturing actual real soldiers.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Fair point. Yeah,
I think
Go ahead.
It's interesting to harp on like that issue. And I think that the litany of other things that transpired through that conversation is insane. I think the one thing that I'm not saying spoken about enough is the quote that he said, where it was, we have to fight the serious threats in our hemisphere and with China. I do a lot of organizing with Veterans for Peace, and the new budget for the Pentagon allocated a lot of funds for disposable ships. That's what they said. And so they were saying that this is a clear posture that they're trying to be provocative to China, which is insane. And the other thing is that they are going to try and initiate a war with Venezuela. And it's he said it out front. We've tapped out the Southwest Asia and the democracies we can overthrow there. So we have to find this other plot of land where we can fight our endless wars. We all know that Trump's tweet on Ukraine, basically proclaiming that if Ukraine keeps going, they can get all their land back, even though the median age of the military men that are serving there are 45, and they're conscribing men that are upwards of 65. But you basically just determine these people to death. You said, oh, just keep on fighting, even though if you look at the fact that the men that are serving already are 45, what happened to all the younger men? Are you telling me that they all died? You're telling me a whole generation of men are gone? So we're done with that war. I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought that was one of the arguments about drafting young men as young as 16, is that was going to eliminate the future sort of viability of Ukraine, the Ukraine population. That once you killed off that many young men, then the population as a whole would suffer and maybe not be able to continue. So I
think that's one of the objectives.
Yeah, I mean, my take on the Hegseth thing is that what he said is just dumb. What Trump said is the real danger when he starts talking about the enemy within and kind of trying to get them used to the idea that we're going to call on you to go into American cities and arrest people we don't like, arrest, on whatever pretext they're coming up with, which is, oh, you are a left-leaning think tank, or you're some NGO that we don't approve of, and we're going to dub you a terrorist organization. That's the real fasci, if you don't like.
But how likely is that, really?
Well, it's not the likelihood of it.
American history.
It
has happened, not militarily, but certainly the FBI was unleashed during the 1950s, during the McCarthy era, against university professors and anybody labeled as a communist. The purges of Hollywood. I mean, it is in our history.
And the likelihood is it can happen here, and this is how it develops. And you start this way. I mean, the caller mentioned the academic world with how they're extorting universities is all a part of this trying to get a handle and get as many levers of control as possible, because
that's a fair point, but that's not nearly the same thing as arresting people that you don't like because they're lefties or something.
I would interject and I say that
go ahead.
That happened in the 1930s during the.
That's not what I'm questioning. I'm not questioning that it happened in the 30s. I'm asking. I don't think that indicates it's likely to happen now.
Well, I think both parties engage in this.
Go ahead.
But in this action to demonize the other. During the Biden administration and prior to that, you had seen this vilification of the alt-right, the fascists. And I feel like that's also very, very dangerous. And you look back and you remember some of the common traumatic attacks, the terrorist attacks, the mass shootings. A lot of them had this ideological backing of white nationalism, where they were pushing this ideology. And now you have, in the Trump administration, you have some of these attacks that are primarily left-leaning ideologies. We had the attack on the ICE facility in Texas. What a lot of people were saying, the person who supposedly killed or assassinated Charlie Kirk had this left-leaning ideology. And so you have these pitting against each other on both sides of the establishment that continue to do this. And I feel like the main objective is to have more surveillance on the American population.
That I could agree with that, but I think it's kind of a false equivalency, and we don't know who killed Charlie Kirk. And most of these people, the person who went after Trump, it's a grab bag of nonsense. They're not necessarily ideological. What is interesting and what is crucial is how those things are used, like you're saying, to pit everybody against each other. I mean,
that's a good point. People are very opportunistic. I think that.
I mean, Kimmel was not taken off the air, threatened by the FCC because he did a joke about Charlie Kirk. He was doing a joke about Trump and Trump's callous response to somebody asking him about Charlie Kirk. And so you talk about Joseph McCarthy, that's one thing. Joseph McCarthy was a rogue senator from Wisconsin. This is now coming from the center of power, the president of the United States, who has all of this power in federal funding that the Supreme Court is allowing him to, or giving him the benefit of the doubt. Most of it is congressionally mandated. And the Supreme Court in these shadow docket cases are giving him the authority to use it any way he wants in the name of this unitary executive theory. And it's all part of a fascist playbook. I don't know if Trump even knows how to spell fascist. I have trouble spelling fascist, but he's instinctual.
I want to push back a little bit on the McCarthy, because McCarthy had Hoover and the FBI behind him in the agency's purge, or the help in backgrounding the people that McCarthy and like-minded politicians were going after. So it wasn't just like Joseph McCarthy was up there, thumping his podium.
Fine, but he was not the president.
Like, he had the whole, security state apparatus helping, and then he was almost the figurehead that then they could point at, so that their culpability in those purges was not exposed.
But he did not have Eisenhower.
To the Church Commission, excuse me, he did
not have Eisenhower. It wasn't coming from the White. He did not have Eisenhower. Eisenhower is not a fan.
Yes.
And so yes, what you're saying is those.
But he did have Hoover, who was more powerful at that time, Hoover or Eisenhower.
Hoover was more powerful than Eisenhower, you're saying?
No, I'm being rhetorical, but I'm saying that the president is somewhat at the mercy of the security state agencies.
Well, yeah, maybe I'm not so sure. In the 50s, maybe now, but my point is, this is coming from the president of the United States, and it's all part of a fascist playbook. And I know that's why they're so sensitive to that word, because they're saying, don't call us that. It's because it's true.
Well, but isn't it losing its strength? Isn't the title fascism?
Yeah, it's overused. It's definitely it's definitely overused, and there seems to be a lack of awareness among you and some of your kindred spirits, Steve, that Trump has been targeted, and when it comes to war, whether it's kinetic war, where you're firing weapons at people, or whether it's political warfare or lawfare, when you're attacked, it shouldn't come as a shock that the person who's attacked responds in kind.
When they
I don't know. Am I a guest on the show, or is?
Oh, all right.
Who's a guest on the show?
You are.
Okay.
Go ahead.
These things that going after Trump about were not exactly without a ton of evidence, whether it's the documents case, whether it was the January 6th case, whether it was the recording of him on Georgia asking for 11,000 votes. These were not made out of thin air. This was not, he committed mortgage fraud and we're going to dig up something there. These were very strong cases that
They were nothing cases, complete nothing burgers.
Yeah, no.
Well, I would, yeah, I mean, I would add to that is that, you know,
All right. Well, hey, thanks for the call.
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll PM you.
All right.
Jeff.
right,
take care.
Thank you for contacting me.
Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Gus, thank you so much for your time. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Since Steve is complaining that he's the guest, I'll get rid of the call.
What I guess I want to say is that you see this progression with the establishment. Like I'm not a Trump supporter. I am an independent, but I clearly saw that the Russiagate stuff was essentially conjured up, and I think it was mainly conjured up to provide support for this war with Ukraine and Russia.
Right.
And I think
It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Russiagate.
Yeah, we were called a Russian puppet for even insinuating some kind of dissent. This language that I think it's pushed by both parties. No matter who's in office, it's this stifling of dissent is constantly pushed. It takes a new format with whoever is in office, but I think the word fascist is overused, and it's not even. Fascism is the intermingling of your government with a corporation. We've had that here for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean that's what we had. That's what we have. But what's different is now using the instrument, and this is why they drew all these military people together, because our military is the tradition of staying out of politics, and the fascists. This is true of the fascists of the 30s in Italy and in Germany. You have to have the military on your side, or you have to have, generals who will go along with you. And they know they don't have that. And this was an attempt to sort of soften them up. And I think it probably backfired.
Soften them up by insulting them?
Soften them up, well, by the 70-minute diatribe about, we have enemies within. I'm not saying it was effective. And as a matter of fact, it probably was not effective at all, because what they managed to do is get all these people in a room together who would not normally be in a room together and be able to talk about it when otherwise they wouldn't be, they'd be atomized. They'd be sending, maybe scared to send emails to each other. But now they can say, what the hell was that? And so I think it probably backfired because, these two guys are fools.
Well, that may be so, but I'm not quite sure why you're theorizing that the point of it was to soften them up, win them over, so to speak.
Well, if you're saying, look, I'm going to be possibly calling on you because there's an enemy within. Mm-hmm. And, the oath you take.
Making them feel important or something like that.
Yeah, the oath you take is for foreign and domestic. Mm-hmm. This is trying to get some of them, and maybe he doesn't need all of them, get some of them used to the idea. This is what I'm going to be doing. Hopefully it doesn't work, but that's what they're trying to do.
All right. Getting back to what you said about all those cases, they're all nothing burgers. You're saying, for example, because Trump said find whatever amount of votes, this is like the most ridiculous thing, because there's a recording of it online. Whereas in general, when we're hearing about various controversies, we don't always see or hear all the evidence. But in this case, we all heard it. Trump spent an hour saying that there was this irregularity here, there was another irregularity there. He's saying, look into this. We don't necessarily have to win on all of it. We just have to find 11,000 votes. That's not the same thing as saying illegally come up with 11,000 votes. He's saying, look into it. And if I'm right about any of these irregularities, then that can change the election. How did I distort it just then?
It's just incredibly naive. It's incredibly naive to think that the intent is not to flip votes.
No, I didn't say that, though. That is the intent.
That is the intent.
Right, but not to do it illegally. Why would he think?
Trump say, do whatever, but make sure it's legal? He said, all I want is...
Because he didn't say make sure it's legal. That's an indication that he expected the attorney general to act illegally?
Yeah, but who calls the the guy was in charge of voting in the state to put pressure on him like that. He had Meadows on the call. The president is going to call you to. It's incredibly naive to think that was not the intention.
Well, you keep saying it's naive. What's naive? I agree. He was trying to get the election.
Think that what he was trying to do was flip votes any way he can.
Any way he can.
Any way you can.
I think it's incredibly biased of you to assume that Trump, with lawyers on both sides on the phone, knowing it's going to be recorded, nobody even reacted like it was unusual when he said it. Every single part of that call, the whole hour long, he is arguing about different irregularities and wanting the guy to look into it.
They were all irregularities that his own staff had told him was bullshit.
I know he's making an argument, though, but how does that get to do something illegal to find me the votes? Why would Trump even think that the guy would do that for him?
Because Trump is a megalomaniac. Because Trump is in a corner. He's a rat, he knows that if he doesn't win, he's done a lot of stuff that's going to put him in jail. He knows that that's a problem for him.
Well, I would say, I think that the election and how we run our elections does need to be seriously addressed, because I feel like it is not secured from corruption. I worked on 2 independent campaigns last year. I saw firsthand how you can manipulate votes and outcomes to pander to the establishment. I think one big case where it's, the stealing of the election was really done by censoring the Biden laptop case. I think that was, and how every media pundit kind of fell lockstep with the, stuff that you found within that laptop. I think that was, collusion to sway an election, sway the public into thinking a particular way. And I find that's very detrimental. So I think there are more ways than stuffing ballots that can, manipulate elections. And I think that we have that in this country.
Yeah, like censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story, like kicking the president of the United States off Twitter. That could qualify as stealing the election.
It's tactics to do so, I would say.
Twitter kicked him off, but
right. Did he have the FCC guy say anything about that? Of course, that's not.
No, there's evidence. Did you see? Check the Twitter files, Steve. There's evidence that they were pressured by the Biden administration.
FBI. Which is concerning.
I agree. It's a concern, but it wasn't like, I don't think it rises to the level. He incited an insurrection.
There was no insurrection, and he was kicked off before then, wasn't he?
He wasn't kicked off before the insurrection. No.
What insurrection? Insurrection is a crime, Steve.
January 6th.
I would say the riot that happened on January 6th.
Steve, if you punch somebody, and should we say that you murdered them and just give it some other crime that's more severe, or should we just say what it is? If it was an insurrection, they would have been charged with that crime. An insurrection is a violent overthrow of the government. That wasn't what happened. They were protesting. They got rowdy. There was vandalism.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. Again,
it's a riot. We can.
It's naive, where they were, if they had gotten to any of these, if they'd gotten to Nancy Pelosi, if they'd gotten to AOC, if they had gotten to Mike Pence, what do you think would have happened? The fact that it didn't work doesn't make it the intent any less. Just like with Trump in Georgia, the fact
I don't think that you evaluate evidence for people you like the same way you evaluate evidence for people you don't like. You just made Trump guilty with the attorney general, even though you know darn well he didn't say find it illegal, so you're going to assume it. And you want to make the people who were protesting in DC guilty of an insurrection because they would have done something they didn't do if they could have done it. That's not a way to evaluate evidence.
That they said they were going to do. The fact that it didn't work doesn't change the fact that they had.
They said they were going to do what?
Hang Mike Pence. They were going to.
There was thousands and thousands of people there, and there were about 5 people who had a theatrical prop. And you're going to say that the thousands of people there were going to hang Mike Pence?
Listen,
it's
Charles
a prop.
Manson got convicted, and he was nowhere near the crime scene.
Who?
Charles Manson.
I'm not sure I get the comparison.
Charles Manson was convicted, and he was nowhere near the crime scene. He was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison.
Uh-huh.
He was nowhere near the crime scene. The fact that the crime did not work, the intent was there. The intent was there in all of these things. And
your evidence of the intent was 5 people had a noose as a prop. What do you call that thing that the noose hangs from?
Gallows.
Yeah, whatever.
Gallows.
So that's your evidence of
the important aspect that's not that shocks me is the amount of FBI agents that were there that day. Much like the plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmore, they had to drop the charges because there was the FBI agents who were inciting these men to do it. So I think that there's this common denominator of what is the FBI like? Are they trying to incite? My theory is for more mass surveillance. So that's what I think. They want more stricter laws on protesting, and therefore there was a concerted effort by our own FBI, who should be there to protect American citizens, to incite violence. And
so
we don't really know. To be fair,
the FBI people who what is the evidence that the FBI people who were there? And I don't know this question. Incited violence. What did they do? Were they the 5 guys you're talking about?
I'm sorry?
Were they the 5 guys that Jeff is talking about who constructed there were 5 people who were bad actors? And
it's possible. No, it's possible they were, because we don't really know who those people were with the news. But no, I agree with you, Steve. I agree with you, Steve, that it hasn't been proved that the FBI were provocateurs, but I think there's a reasonable possibility. There's recently new information that there was, I think, 275 FBI agents there, but it's not entirely clear whether they were there in advance, perhaps as provocateurs, or whether they responded to the uprising afterwards. That isn't exactly clear.
Right, and it could have been, there was a lot of planning for this and announcements, and go there, it'll be wild. So I can see law enforcement, especially the FBI, saying, "Oh, we better, be there." And I don't know.
But the FBI has a long track record of inciting violence. Right after 9/11, there was a lot of cases where they would incite people of Islamic faith to conduct terrorist attacks. Pardon me, I forgot the name of this one individual who's still in prison today. Was essentially disabled mentally. There's correspondence between him and this FBI agent, where this FBI agent is actually providing the bomb for him to place in the subway. And the correspondence, he goes, "Well, I have to ask my mom first." So this is kind of this mental state of this individual. So the FBI has this track record of inciting violence when their sole purpose is actually to stop it. We know that a lot of the mass shooters that conduct these essentially terrorist attacks are on the FBI watch list. So the FBI is watching them, and somehow they're not watching them the day that they want to conduct these terrorist attacks. I think that there is credible evidence that the FBI is kind of engaging in nefarious activities that is not helping the American people. There's one individual that was there on January 6th. I forgot his name. The charges were dropped on him, but there was video recording of him the night before on January 5th saying, "Let's storm the Capitol, let's storm the Capitol." Right. And you had people in the crowd say, well, hold up now, are you an FBI agent? He kind of scurries away from the crowd then. And then he's seen that day busting out the window of the Capitol, which further pumps the crowd into a frenzy to act in this.
Yeah, he was exhorting them to go in.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say I'm no fan of the FBI, and they have a terrible history, and but this idea that Donald Trump wasn't a huge inciter. The president of the United States, in his speech, telling them to march down to the Capitol, and
he said, "Go peacefully."
No, it was really FBI people.
He said the word incitement, as you just used it, is misleading. That's a crime. That sometimes the way that word is used.
Yeah.
If you're using just the dictionary definition, he incited them. He got them riled up about the election. But his rhetoric was very standard rhetoric. You would never interpret it as a crime if it was one of your beloved Democrats. He said, "Go." He actually literally said, "Go peacefully." So yeah, he riled them up. He riled them up. That's what he did. He riled them up.
Yeah.
But you can do that.
And he said peacefully, kind of as an aside. But Giuliani's saying it's
But he didn't say anything other than that.
Giuliani is combat. Eastman, there are all the other people there who are part of this whole thing. That's all part of the incitement. And
you don't think there's rhetoric that the other side uses that's at least as bad as that?
Give me an example of.
Well, I'll try to remember off the top of my head. But before I do, are you telling me that you doubt that? Like Maxine Waters hasn't said stuff like, "We get in their face when you see them on the street, give them trouble," things like that.
I don't know what
how is that?
Waters said.
How is go to the Capitol and act peacefully worse than that?
None of the go to the Capitol and act peacefully. He was not saying. He was saying you're not going to get your. I don't know exactly. You're not going to get your country back. He was, this kind of legal parsing of the words and saying, well, he said this word completely.
Well, you're the one who's saying it's some kind of a crime or something. He incited. That's what leaders do. They rile up their people to do what they want.
And it got out of hand. And he was very upset he couldn't be there to witness it on a bogus idea that somehow this election was stolen. And
it was suspicious. It was suspicious.
It's 60 court cases thrown out by all flavor of judges.
Well, because they were hastily prepared weak lawsuits because they had to be. They had deadlines that there was Steve, calm down before you can make faces in a minute, but let me say it first. Okay. They fought it a number of ways. Okay. One of the ways was to file lawsuits that had to be filed very quickly because of deadlines. Normally, when you file lawsuits, it often takes months, if not years, to prepare for it. And so that's it. That's the story on those lawsuits. But it was very suspicious because of how the campaign.
January 6th was not long enough to find this very obvious malfeasance. That's the excuse, is they just didn't have enough time. Well, they've had enough time since, and still they have not proved anything, because just on its face, it's ridiculous that the Democrats are somehow so deviously clever and yet incompetent on the other hand. So the fact that they would get the guy at the top,
there was a very unusual.
They wouldn't rig the rest of the election so that the Democrats could actually get across their program. They just went after Trump, and they didn't rig the rest of the down ballot people. Just on that basis, it's bullshit.
Well, it's not easy. It's a hodgepodge of election laws across the country, and there was an inordinate amount of mail-in ballots and so forth. And basically, if you can't audit the election, then there's no reason to have confidence that it was accurate. The way the whole campaign went, I mean, Biden was like getting no crowds, no enthusiasm. And you could say, I guess, sort of like a concert act. There are concert acts who maybe don't draw a lot of people, but they sell a lot of records. I guess it's theoretically possible.
Steely Dan.
There was
Steely Dan didn't tour.
So maybe he's Steely Dan. Like there's no visible signs of excitement, but but they'll go out and vote. Maybe.
But that's a bogus argument too, because you and I know that a candidate can, like Ralph Nader in 2000 was filling arenas from Portland to Madison Square Garden. They're doing these rallies, and that is a tiny percentage of people that you could reach compared to what you would reach if he was actually allowed on the debates, which he wasn't. And so the fact that Trump was drawing big crowds does not say anything about, all it means is that he was preaching to his choir, and that's a tiny percentage of the people. So this whole idea that because Trump was getting big crowds and Biden wasn't, so
it's an indicator. It's not absolute proof, but it's an indicator.
It indicates nothing.
Well, Ralph Nader was getting big crowds only in certain places. The Biden-Trump campaign was a much larger ordeal, and
Where do you know Ralph is getting? How do you know about the super rallies? Tell me where they were.
I was a big fan. I attended one of the super rallies. I was following that very closely.
Which one were you at?
Long Beach.
Okay.
And I'm aware of the other ones he did too.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of enthusiasm, but he wasn't drawing huge crowds everywhere as Trump was. There wasn't like signs, vote for Ralph Nader all around America like there was for Trump. Of
course not, because he was a third party candidate that was being suppressed by the Democratic Party.
All right. Well, I'm telling you the difference in what the indicators were. By the way, Steve not only co-hosts the Ralph Nader Radio Hour, he produced a documentary. Was it in 2006?
Yes. Well, it was 2006. Yeah, it came out.
With Harriet Mantel. You just turned yourself into a filmmaker. Maybe you had some other experience, but I never saw any signs of it. And it was a great documentary. Let's take a little look at that. Is that still available to rent or buy or?
It is
watch?
somewhere. Where I don't know, but yeah, it's streaming somewhere, I'm sure.
All right. Well, let's take a look at a little bit of the trailer.
I do think that Al Gore cost me the election.
Dad used to work for that guy. I was so proud of all that, and now every time what's that crazy guy up to?
Maybe if we started talking about civic globalization instead of corporate globalization, the world will move forward. We don't have a government buying for the people. We have a government of the Exxons by the General Motors for the DuPont.
And they killed him for saying that there's not a dime's worth of difference between the two parties. And then the Democrats spent the next 4 years proving that he was right.
Ralph, go back to examining the rear end of automobiles.
I think our democracy is a fraud. It's a consumer fraud.
He actually believes in the legal system, and he believes in the marketplace. He believes in all these really American things, and he's trashed for it.
When I was 10, my father said, well, Ralph, what did you learn in school today? Did you learn how to believe or did you learn how to think?
I wouldn't want this to hurt his legacy.
I don't care about my personal legacy.
Steve's name flashed very briefly, a little too briefly there. If you made the goddamn film yourself, you should have made your credit hold a little longer.
Yeah, no. Thank you for showing that, by the way, Jeff. That was very nice, and that project changed the trajectory of my life in a lot of ways, in a lot of very positive ways.
Morgan, are you very familiar with Ralph Nader?
Not very familiar. No, I was very young.
Yeah. Well, he's a historical figure,
Yeah.
There's really nobody. No, I don't think there's any modern day equivalent of him now. Because what he used to do is he would get these campaigns going, and then there would be legislation as a result of it. Now, I don't mean to knock Code Pink at all. I think they're great what they do and try to do, but they don't really have a record of legislation. Nobody does. I'm just giving that as an example. Steve, do you know any specifics on how much legislation came into being as a result of Ralph Nader?
Oh, yeah. Well, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act. The formation of the EPA was largely pushed by Ralph and his groups. Freedom of Information Act, like strengthening, it was already around. that's just off the top of my head. He has a legislative record. We say this in the movie that would be the envy of any president as a private citizen. And, he is an historical figure. And that's kind of the privilege I've had for the last 11 and a half years to be able to talk to him for a couple of hours every week and do this radio show podcast we do. And we had Medea on last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Benjamin. Yeah. And a lot of people from Veterans for Peace we've had on. Mike Ferner just recently, who is actually zooming in from the hospital because he was on a hunger strike, and
I saw him in front of the UN when he was conducting his hunger strike.
Yeah, and he was in his hospital bed when he was talking to us. So, so check out the Ralph Nader Radio Hour. It's on Substack also. And that was again. Thanks for showing that, Jeff.
Sure. No, I really think that was one of the best documentaries I ever saw, and all the more impressive, given that it was made by you and Henriette Mantel, another comedian. Yeah. I don't think she had any prior filmmaking experience either. Right?
Well, no, she had worked as a segment producer for reality television for the Osbournes, actually.
Oh, well, that's an interesting resume for a Ralph Nader.
And she worked for Michael Moore on his TV show. But
okay, so she did have some very relevant
skills. But basically, I was in the middle of doing Everybody Loves Raymond, and Henriette, 15 years before, I knew her as a stand-up comedian, and we would be hanging out at Catch a Rising Star, and she was an office manager for Ralph in the late 70s, early 80s. And she would tell me stories about working for Ralph, and I kind of knew who Ralph was because I'm of that generation. But even then I said, that'd be a good show, good sitcom, about a consumer office. And that was it. Fast forward 15 years later, I have a development deal, and I pitch an idea to the CBS people, and they don't like it. And yes, to answer the question of the person, that resulted in the legislation.
Was it mandatory to install them or mandatory to use them?
Well, it's definitely mandatory to install them because the car companies, they had all this safety. I mean, there were 50,000 people dying on the roads every year. And the car companies had all of this safety stuff. They had seat belts. They knew they had padded dashboards. They had all this stuff, and they kept it locked away for like since the mid 50s because they didn't want to, add to the cost. And Ralph found all of this through his research, found that they'd had all of this stuff, and he wrote a book called Unsafe at Any Speed.
Right.
And that result, you could see the movie and find out GM put investigators on him to try to smear him, and that scandal broke. It seems like a benign scandal compared to today's scandals. And when that scandal broke, they called the CEO of GM into Congress, and people like Abe Ribicoff and Bobby Kennedy grilled him about trying to smear Nader, and they ended up creating their own worst enemy because he got a settlement for an invasion of privacy close to $500,000 in 1970 money, and that funded all of his subsequent crusades and made him a national hero. And he was this obscure lawyer writing articles about car safety.
And nowadays he doesn't have nearly the influence he had before. Now, I won't go so far as to say they don't take his calls if he calls members of Congress, but what would you say is the reason that he is really only, in terms of influence, again, not just trying to be accurate, don't mean to insult him. What is the reason that he has such a little influence now as compared to the old days?
Because that's the nature of how anything works, is he was in the 70s somebody to be reckoned with, and the Congress had to listen to him because he was popular. And then the 80s and the Reagan era, he was kind of in the wilderness, because Reagan was all about anti-regulation and all of these agencies that Ralph was trying to buck up and actually make them do their jobs and be the watchdogs they should be. That was going away under Reagan, and so by but he still had influence. And then by then in the mid 90s, this is the story, he got recruited by the Green Party to run for president because the Clinton era of neoliberalism and the Democratic Party trying to be more like Reagan, trying to be more corporate, because that's where the money was coming from. They were trying to keep a liberal agenda out there, and they needed some national figure who could be their standard bearer. And that's what happened in 1996, where he didn't run for president in 96. He stood for president. He was their standard bearer, but he didn't raise any money. But he was there as a spokesman for the issues that were important. And then in 2000, he actually did a serious campaign and was polling at 5 or 6% towards the end of the campaign. Ended up getting only 2.7%. And then this quirky thing happened in Florida, and he got blamed. He was the scapegoat for the Democratic Party for Al Gore losing to George Bush, and that sort of really was a slowed his and was the beginning of his lack of influence, because now he
I was in West Palm Beach when they had the famous recount. I was working as a sort of a comedic reporter for this now defunct website called Z.com. And I can tell that you didn't really believe me when I said I'm very familiar with Ralph Nader and the Super House. Oh, yeah? Where did you see him? I am very familiar, and I admire Ralph Nader, and I kind of see a similarity between Trump and Nader in that they both are threats to the status quo. They're, of course, very different in pretty obvious ways.
Yeah.
But I've always felt the need to upset things, and
Yeah, that's interesting, because Ralph, who lived through Nixon and was actually instrumental when the Saturday Night Massacre happened in 73. Ralph was the one who filed the lawsuit, and that was the beginning of the end of Nixon. And we've asked him, how does this compare to Nixon? And he says there is no comparison whatsoever. Trump is the
worst. I heard him say that. Nobody's ever been as impeachable as Trump.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think about that, Morgan? Do you think Trump is like obviously and extremely guilty of impeachable offenses? I heard, before you answer that, I listened to the episode with John Bonifaz, who's a charlatan in my opinion, and he was doing the laundry list shtick of giving all, like when you went through the laundry list of obviously strong cases, he was doing the same thing with the obvious reasons for impeachment. And one of them was because Trump said they're eating cats and dogs. They're eating cats and dogs. That's a John Bonifaz as an impeachable offense. And then if he were mocked about it, then he would just move on to something else on the list, which is the exact strategy of the laundry list.
Yeah. Well,
but let's let Morgan.
I'll just say one more thing about Ralph's attitude toward Trump is that, Trump is basically tearing down everything that he worked for, which was, he's tearing down the administrative state and really allowing corporate power led by fossil fuel industry and big tech just have their way, because he's a corporate shill, and ultimately that's what Trump is. I'm sorry, Morgan, go ahead.
No, don't be sorry.
You're fine. I know this individual called Bruce Fein. He's a constitutional lawyer.
Yeah.
He pulls out articles for impeachment for every president, I think, since Bush Sr. Every single president has conducted themselves against the Constitution of the United States in very flamboyant matters that should be taken up against it. And Trump is no anomaly to that. I think what you
funny
see
you should say that. Bruce Fein is one of Ralph's guys and Steve guys.
Bruce Fein is been on our show many times.
So you're aware that the criminal actions that both presidents on both sides of the aisle have been conducting.
Right.
I think with
Trump, it doesn't do any. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Maureen. Go.
No, you're fine. With what Trump, his thing that I think sets him against other politicians is his rhetoric. He engages in a lot of culture war, and does it so not in a political manner. He uses ad hominems. He is just kind of like the locker room talk, I guess, for lack of better terms. That stuff that's very not appetizing to the other side, even though a lot of the policies are just the same. Like I didn't mention before, Biden had this new DoD directive in 2024, which now is Department of War, but it was Department of Defense at the time, that we have spoken about on the show before, where it allots the power to the Secretary of Defense to engage or allow the military to engage with local law enforcement, even when in the case of lethality, of lethal action towards the American population. At the time, you had right-wing people who were rightfully objectifying to that, saying that that is a fascist action, you know? And now you see this progression with Trump in office, where he's basically enacting on that. And I think that is the case that no one really pays attention to, is that no matter who's in office, you see this progression of a police state. It takes on different flavors, different forms. Some are more appetizing to the public because it's, you know, portrayed in this public safety manner. But nonetheless, the agenda is pushed for more control, more authoritarianship, more corporate control. Like you said before, during Clinton's administration, it was this push to be more like Reagan, to have, you know, rub elbows with the corporations. That's just my thing, is that I think that Trump is different in the sense that he uses very annoying rhetoric and doesn't have.
He might call what's her name a hood rat, for example, right?
Well,
yeah, that's something Trump would do.
Yeah, right.
I mean, look at you know, little Marco, and you know, Lion Ted. You know.
Oh yeah, everybody. So you know what? The thing I just want, maybe we just use this as a point to get into one more story. We're not going to get to everything that we talked about, but the thing is, it's like the boy who cried wolf. You don't want to exaggerate, and that's where I think some of these folks who are crying for impeachment go awry. And that's the same feeling I had today when the news broke of Jane Fonda resurrecting the Committee for First Amendment Rights. She went on CNN, and let's take a look at that clip. And maybe we should close with just, you know, our comments on that, since we've been at this for a while. I know I have it somewhere. There it is.
I do want to talk about something that you start with, what you wrote in this letter, because it's really striking. You wrote, "I'm 87 years old. I've seen war, repression, protest, and backlash. I've been celebrated and I've been branded an enemy of the state. But I can tell you this is the most frightening moment of my life." That's pretty chilling.
This is a very chilling time. You know, we've faced attempts at autocracy before in the 20s and 30s, and you've cited the example of McCarthyism. There was Jim Crow. This is different, and we should all be very scared, and the key is solidarity. And so that's why I thought to resurrect the spirit of the committee that was started in the 50s and included my father within the entertainment industry.
Seems a little hyperbolic, and I wonder if we're going to see these celebrities demonstrate the same concern for the free speech rights of the other side. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I think it's kind of false equivalency to say that the free speech on the, you know, to say that both sides do it. It's just does not rise to the level. Whatever was happening on social media with Russian bots or COVID misinformation, those things, especially in the COVID space, which is about public health, does not rise to the level of the FCC threatening Jimmy Kimmel or threatening Palestinian protesters. or any of that. That this is really coming from the top, and it's ideological, and it's not the same. I don't know, Morgan.
Well, I agree. I've spoken out several times about the Trump administration criminalizing criticism of Israel. I agree with that, but not the Jimmy Kimmel FCC thing. What do you think? Before I explain why, what do you think, Morgan?
My take on the Jimmy Kimmel thing is different. I feel like you have these late night talk shows that their ratings are kind of plummeting. This is my theory. I don't have any evidence to back it up. I think it's convenient and strange how you have, these corporations, which essentially that owns these media stations, are not seeing the return that they want to from the public, because it's essentially a business. People that pay these corporations, these media conglomerates, want to sell products. So if no one's watching the show, then why are they, funding, to the tunes of millions of dollars for these ad spaces? So if you're not pulling in the viewership, how do you do so? You create controversy. And I think this is one way how they did it, is that Trump is this big boogeyman. And it's wrong. I totally think it's wrong what the FCC did. But I think the media corporations are bowing down because it's convenient, because they wanted to do this regardless. They wanted to hit these rebrand, these resets, and try and get the media back, or the public back engaged with these media formats. That's just my hot take. I don't have any evidence.
Well, Somerville John says the FCC did not threaten Jimmy. Now, let me just say that a little bit more specifically. I don't want to quibble over semantics. It was a threat, you could say, but it was a very vague threat, and nothing was done. Basically, the FCC commissioner said, he used language that's sort of like a mafioso. Right. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. But this mafioso language, a reference to authority that they actually have. He didn't threaten any specific thing. He didn't tell them not to do anything. And Jimmy Kimmel is on mocking Trump all the time. Stephen Colbert is on till May. South Park. The government's not doing anything to these people. They're like daily ripping Trump a new asshole.
Yeah, free speech. And you would be...
So how do you square that with Jane Fonda saying, it's never been this bad, and you saying it's never been this bad?
Jeff, you'd be a great mob lawyer, because you say, my client never said these specific words. When they go, it would be, we could do this the easy way, or we could do this the hard way. It would be a shame.
I acknowledged it had a mafioso tone to it.
That's the Georgia call. That's the Zelensky call. That's the FCC Brandon Carr. That's, of course, they're smart enough not to say exactly what they mean, so that you can say, well, he said go peacefully. It is
what they mean is the FCC really does have the authority to enforce the requirement that broadcast stations to serve the public interest. Now, that's vague. It's not the FCC's fault that it's vague, but it's real authority. That's what he was referencing. Okay. He said, well, if they're not serving the public interest, then we have the authority to do something about that.
And when was Rush Limbaugh threatened? When was who's this guy, Levin? When were any of these people ever threatened?
Well, how about this whole Citizens United issue? The FEC regulated when they made a film that was critical of Hillary Clinton. They really regulated it. They really stopped it from happening. It's another three-letter agency, just one letter different, the FEC. And so, you're more worried about threatening to use this authority than actually using the authority. They stopped people from saying or being able to spend money on promoting a film that criticized her. That's the authority they had, and they were using it in a very arbitrary way.
I am not up on all of the ins and outs of the Citizens United what presaged that. I just know the results of that, which are terrible, which we know.
Who else isn't up on it is John Boniface, but he pretends he is. He makes a career
so
out of it.
I can't speak intelligently about that.
Yeah.
I can't speak intelligently about a lot of things, obviously.
You went to Yale.
But it doesn't, trust me, I got hit in the head a lot. But
so you say I'm a mob lawyer, but they really do have that
I
authority.
say you'd be a good mob lawyer, yeah. Because you say my client never said these words. He said the word peacefully, and you ignore the whole context and the whole intent behind it, and the whole effect of what these words mean.
Yeah.
And so it's very, that's why I say it's legalistic and it's parsing language.
Well, I don't think there's no strong evidence that it has much of an effect, given that Jimmy Kimmel is on lambasting Trump every night.
Well, yeah, he can lambaste all. That's free speech.
But you said you're concerned about the effect. What effect? The effect is Jimmy Kimmel is on saying whatever the hell he wants.
Effect that
well, as Morgan said, these shows aren't getting a lot of ratings anyway. There's usually more than one. What's that?
Late night shows don't get huge ratings, but they.
Right. And they've been on the way out for years. They've been on the way out for years, whether it's reducing it from 90 minutes to 60 minutes or canceling various shows. They've been on the way out for years.
Well, I mean, that's a technology thing too with
right.
I think there's this generational shift where my generation's not watching this stuff, but I remember vividly growing up, my parents would, that generation, it was like this, very unified thing. You watch Cohen, I can't remember the name, the redhead guy,
Morgan, we'll talk about Jack Parr, and she's talking about Conan.
I say MASH. I say Nader. Never heard
Sid Caesar. How about Sid Caesar?
Sid Caesar, yes.
No, well, Steve and I are about the same age. I think you may be a year or two older, but we know. I think our first.
How come I look so much better?
I have no idea. Let's take another look at it.
Maybe because
I think our first memory is Johnny Carson. Am I right about that?
Yes.
Johnny Carson, and then there's Steve, and then David Letterman. Right, he was a big deal for us, was he not?
Yeah, David Letterman. That was the one that my family would watch. I
don't know about Conan, but Conan's good, but I don't know that he was such a big deal, right?
So sexy, it hurts.
But I think that's just my generation is watching like YouTube, independent media. We're not engaged with. I'm sorry.
I watched that now too. I watched
that.
Yeah, so there's.
Me too. I hardly ever put the TV on. That's where Jimmy Kimmel's biggest audience probably is clips of him saying sassy things.
I watch the monologue. It's a very you can, I watch all the independent media on YouTube anyway. I cut the cord a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I watched his first night.
Corporations are getting their money from ad purchases, which is needed to play on broadcasting. And that's what I think you see a lot of this reorienting, reshifting. We had a guest on the show. We were kind of talking about this as well, where there's this rebranding to try and recapture your audience because they're not getting the returns that they used to with, selling to these corporations buying ad spaces, and they're supposed to be demanding a return. There's not enough viewers. And I think that, this whole thing.
You got it, Morgan. You're nailing it, baby. It's a combination of factors. It's politically not worth the trouble because they're not making that much money. If they were making a lot of money, then they might fight the political climate.
And Trump just made Jimmy Kimmel's ratings skyrocket. So
temporarily.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that's a good point. That was the controversy, and I think there's always something like that American Eagle ad with that Sweeney girl.
Controversy sells. Even I watched Jimmy Kimmel his first night back.
Wow. See? How did you handle that? Were you okay?
Absolutely no problem. Yeah. I detect a lot of attitude, but I'm not sure I get the meaning of the attitude.
No, because
but I'm simply saying I'm not somebody who otherwise watches the show. That's all I'm saying.
You have what I admire is you have a great capacity for taking in opposite points of view. And
when I'm not acting like a mob lawyer, a good mob lawyer.
I'm a mob lawyer and a racist. This is the only thing I've called you.
See, Morgan, did I characterize our relationship accurately before when I said it's a love-hate relationship? And Steve was very woke. Did I nail it? Yeah.
I'm woke.
You are woke. We had Scott Blakeman on a couple of weeks ago too.
I saw the clip you showed me. Scott, I've known for 45 years, and he has not aged a bit. He looks exactly the same. I mean, he looks great, and he's older than me.
Is he really? How old are you, and how old is he?
I'm 68. He must be 69, 70.
Wow. Yeah, he does look good.
He looks good.
I told him that he did this audio thing. I can't remember the name of the platform, but he did. I think it was up at Jimmy Kimmel actually, and I never heard of it. And I said, I don't know what you're doing with this audio. With a punum like you have, we got to see it. You got to be do a video thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Scott, we came up together in New York stand-up scene, in the 80s. Yeah.
He's much less abrasive than you are, but you're both in the same category. See, we're wonderful. We are wonderful. We will have, if you can probably, I don't know if you've been looking at the comments, but a lot of them are, on the pro-Trump kind of side of things.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we had you on, we had Scott Blakeman. Aren't we wonderful, Morgan? Yes.
We're very, we love to hear different points of view and engage in discourse.
And by the way, I think that's the potential for this Jane Fonda thing. I hope that this First Amendment committee she has will actually entertain the sort of arguments that I've been making, and that other folks who agree with me will make too. That's where I think the real potential lies. Otherwise, there's going to be just constantly fighting back and forth. If they can get people on board, if they can get, they get all these Hollywood liberals on board now, but if they can get some of the ones on the other side on board too, and they can all agree that at some point we've got to really uphold free speech for everybody, not just our side, I would love that if that happens.
Yeah.
The ACLU has turned into an anti-Trump organization, sadly. Are you familiar with FIRE, Steve?
That's the thing that is hot and you cook things on it.
Yeah, you know what? It's not a good name.
It sounds like you think I'm some sort of caveman, and you're saying, "Are you familiar with FIRE?"
Right.
This new thing we've got.
What I've just proven is that it's a bad name, because, like, if you say ACLU, everybody knows what it is.
Yeah.
But if you say FIRE, then
you're in a crowded theater, is that free speech?
Yeah, right. Let me. Before we say goodnight, I got to turn you on to FIRE. Not the
element.
What the hell? I can't even remember what it stands for. Hang on. I'm going to find it. Here it is. It stands for Jesus Christ. Even on their website, I can't even see what the hell it stands for. Oh, here it is. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. And they are now what the ACLU used to be and should be still. I encourage you to look into that. They're sticking up. They're going after Trump about criminalizing criticism of Israel, for example. Yeah. So I'm promise you, I'm not pushing some pro-Trump thing at all.
No,
these people are for real. Let me try to do a share screen here, and I'll just show you what I'm talking about. Where the hell is it? I have too many. Can you see it?
Nope. Are the things you have in here?
I don't see it. I thought I just did a share screen. Let me try again. Stop screen. Hang on.
Oh, wait, I did see it.
And I just took it away, right?
Yeah.
All right. You see it? Click on it and put it in. I don't know why I can't find it.
Okay.
There it is. Okay, so that's their website. And check it out. They started, Steve, as an organization that addressed campus free speech issues, specifically that. But about 2 years ago, they got some extra funding and they segued into all kinds of free speech issues.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it off.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah. Sorry that took so long. All right. So if you want to check out Steve's work, you can do that at stevescrovan.substack.com.
If you want
There
the
it is.
next Kash Patel children's book, you're gonna want to go to my Substack.
And there it is. And if you want to see Steve repost all of Public Citizen's woke posts, you can follow him on X at
That was
Scrovan.
the group Ralph started. You're the guy you admire so much.
Yeah, I do admire him, but I don't think he's strong on free speech. But do me a favor, since you're so...
He's absolutist.
Well, he
Ralph.
claims to be, but he's not. Because do me a favor, Steve, since you're so close with Ralph. I've tried to find, one thing I admire about Ralph is that he doesn't duck arguments. He's not evasive. Like, he's intellectually honest, right?
Yes.
But I have not been able to find him giving an honest analysis of the Citizens United controversy. I've only, and I'm not saying for sure that he hasn't, but I promise you I've tried to find it and I can't. I've only found him saying that it's a bad decision. He doesn't like it. And so just to remind you, my very simple point about Citizens United, and it's not a Jeff Norman unique thing. Those, I'm pretty much on board with the ACLU and everybody who thinks it was just more or less the right decision, is that there's never been any definition of the behavior that's to be regulated. And so ask Ralph, this is the question. Ralph, is it necessary to know what the government's authority is? Like, what can be regulated? Don't you agree that it's necessary? And see what he says to that.
Okay.
And then if he says yes, then say, well, what's the behavior that the regulation proponents want to be regulated?
But I can't say that with that attitude. I can't go, what's the behavior?
Well, this is the
I'll
wine.
probably say, so Ralph, what's the behavior?
This is the wine talking. I'm all worked up because of the wine. Yeah, definitely. Use your Spanish water voice instead of my California wine. Will you do that? Will you ask him? And ask him if he's ever written an analysis about it, and then please send me a link. I'd really like to know.
Some things like he doesn't do a lot of the Second Amendment stuff. It's just not his area.
But you just told me he's a free speech absolutist.
He's described himself as a free speech, and he's against politically correct. However you want to define that speech. But
well, if he's saying he wants the government to have the authority to regulate what people spend on speech, if you're a free speech absolutist, you should at the very least be able to say, well, in what circumstances?
Right.
It can't be.
All right.
Here, in fact, let's reduce it to a two-word question. What circumstances? It can't be always. That would wipe out the First Amendment. It can only be in special circumstances, right? That you can't spend money on speech.
And I won't speak for him, but I would guess he would say that elections. We can make rules about elections, and we can say that money is not speech. That money is.
But that's way too big. Elections.
Well, I mean, let's not start because I got to go anyway. But this is a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like people, like all the cable news channels, for example, all the podcasters, everybody's always talking about issues that will influence elections, right? Any issue of the day, if you're talking about it, might influence an election.
Right.
So
he would probably also talk about the fairness doctrine and that going away under Reagan too. So
right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Morgan. It was nice to meet you, and pleasure listening to your point of view there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Likewise.
I detected 90% sincerity there.
I detect 90% sincerity. This is what I'm saying. Jeff, my boss, lawyer, my client did not say these words. He did not. What do you mean by insight? All right, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Take care, Steve. All right. There you have it. Did we do all right, Morgan? What do you think? Did we survive without Ryan?
Well, I miss him, but yeah, we did. It was a good show.
I missed him too. It's always good to have Ryan. That was a long show. We never got to the ICE thing or the Saudi Comedy Festival, but that's what happens when you get into arguments along the way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, to our beloved audience, I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back next week with another episode of The Whiners. And then on Wednesday night, please join us on Ask the Inspector with Scott Ritter. And Morgan, you're in Washington until tomorrow?
I'm in D.C. Yes. I arrive back at my hometown tomorrow. So.
All right. So you're pretty much done with your work there, or you have more going on tonight?
Well, I don't think my work is done until something comes to an end with this genocide, hopefully some justice. But that's kind of where my
that's in the
is.
big picture, but specifically, are you have plans to?
No more demonstrations as of the near future in DC. But actually, there are some. In the coming days, there will be more, I believe like October 5th, October 7th, there will be these mass demonstrations that Americans should be engaged in to call out this genocide. I wish that there was mass demonstrations like we see in Brussels, Berlin, in Italy, to go against the interception of these flotillas. But we need to step up our organization game. So anyways.
Yeah, there have been some sizable demonstrations. I produce Trump Watch with Scott Ritter, and we had Medea Benjamin on a couple of weeks ago.
I saw
think
that.
it's actually our most recent episode. And I dug up some footage of demonstrations from all over the world. And I think some of it was in the U.S. But you're right, it's not like mass demonstrations everywhere. We were talking about how, what's that? Yeah, there were campus demonstrations, but I think people are scared now. And that's what Medea was saying.
Yeah. So I think it's to that case of, censorship, Jane Fonda, all that it's been long progressing before a Trump administration. So I think that is something that is missed and not taken seriously. Like someone in the comments brought up Julian Assange, the perfect case for someone who had the Espionage Act enacted on them, even though they're not even an American citizen. But
Right. I haven't heard any news. I hope he's doing well. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised or blame him if he never presents anything publicly again after what he's been through. But have you heard anything?
Is still doing their thing.
Well, yeah, but not him. I don't think, right?
He doesn't need to. He's
No. I agree. But nonetheless, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. I mean, has it been established that he is done with public life, or we don't know?
He's definitely not done with making public statements, but I don't think he's going to take this activist role. I don't know. I could be wrong. He could be, gearing up for something. But I know that he has showed up at film festivals, decrying what's happening in Gaza, genocide, and all that's very important, especially with his profile. And
yeah. Well, who knows to what degree he was damaged by what happened to him, and who knows what is best for his family. I'm just just curious. That's all. All right, sweetheart. Have a good one.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.